I'm Michael Hinnant. I'm the Director of Experience Design for Filter, and I'm here today with Aaron Bowersock, Senior UX Designer on the Filter team, and we're here to talk about design systems today. So I wanted to start off talking about what we're seeing today with our clients and in the industry in general with companies that focus on digital experiences and where they're at with using design systems and developing design systems. There's this back and forth debate in the community around, do you build your own or do you just go and adopt and pick up something like Material or Lightning? And there's certainly kind of like trade-offs between adopting someone else's library and building your own.
When you want to start off in a project, or maybe you're trying to improve a product that's who knows how old, you got to start thinking about these trade-offs, such as, do I have time to build an entirely new design library, completely customized from scratch design system? On the other end, you have like human interface guidelines or material design that you can just pick up and go. And the trade-off there is, does it actually match my brand? Does it match what my customers are expecting? Can it technically handle what my product delivers or my service delivers? So those are the extreme trade-offs, but in between, how have you seen our clients adapt to this?
A lot more often in building it yourself, right? In building kind of a custom version. And I think that's for a number of reasons, right? One is that then you can make it very brand specific. You can really dial it in to your brand experience and the customers that you have and the kinds of experiences that you need to support. And I think there's also a sense of ownership around that both creative and development teams really like to have, and really, it's an exciting process for them. And it actually has a lot of benefit in building that teamwork and building collaboration between design and development, that just adopting someone else's, you don't get quite the same benefit on how those teams come together and solve problems together and really move things forward. I know with startups, right, like adoption of an existing thing is a very fast way to get up and running and to construct something that is consistent and coherent without that large investment up front. But usually, as those companies start to mature and those products start to get customers using them and you start to learn, you learn areas where that design system maybe doesn't align, or where the way that you have applied it needs to change, right? And then certainly the brand component comes into play, and you go from wanting to get people to use your product to getting people to experience your brand. Right, and I think that that's the tipping point for then coming back and either revisiting or evolving those design language components to make them much more brand specific or aligned with your entire brand ethos, right? Because it's not just the look and feel colors and layouts, but also the way they behave, right? So a lot of these patterns, when you think about motion design or some of the transitional designs or even just some of the animations, really, those aspects of the experience are ways to express your brand that if you're not looking at them as brand personality expressions, right, you miss the opportunity to really connect with your customers in that way. Certainly in my experience, when going about designing these, even when building them from scratch, if you will, I've seen development and design teams and even kind of product teams get stuck in saying, we want a new experience, we want to do it on a progressive approach, and we want to start, but if we start introducing change, am I going to make the problem worse by introducing like random change into our product, right? Like, how do we do it in a way that customers can adopt and learn it incrementally, but it also doesn't make the disaggregation of the experience worse?
Yeah, Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it. You talked about a little bit about ownership and buy-in. When you're working with different teams within your organization, they get a sense of buy-in as well. So maybe you're not butting heads and saying, well, this is the way that they do it, so that's why we do it. It changes to, this is the way that we've agreed to do it, because this is how our customers prefer.
Yeah.
So from there, yeah, you can start expanding. Maybe there was one feature on your product that you knew was a trouble area. And you're like, okay, now's the time, let's pull the trigger, let's develop this out, let's design this out, let's bring stakeholders in and figure out if this is the best solution.
Yeah, it brings up a point about kind of the how do you build it out and how do you roll it out in terms of both the design and the development and coordination of that. So certainly the incremental approach, the kind of evolutionary approach, as opposed to the revolutionary approach, is definitely the way a lot of companies go, and a way to make it successful, because you can roll it out and learn and continue to take that learning into that evolution, as opposed to investing all up front and then potentially having to redo a bunch of work. It's kind of, as classic software development, and the reason that Agile works, right, is because that ongoing learning and incremental evolution.
If you gain success in this first feature, that starts building that confidence. So we hear like, oh, is it worth the investment? Is it worth the money investment? Is it worth the time investment? Is it worth the headaches and the long nights for project managers?
Yeah.
Hopefully the initial feedback that you get from this new feature is yeah, and that will get a little bit more buy-in to say, okay, now that was our main pain point. But we also know that people are, let's say if you have a retail site or some sort of service, people are dropping off at this point constantly. Why? Maybe we can take some of the design principles that we learned and implement them over here. And then you can take this base that you started working on and take some of the patterns over here, take some of that language and some of the feel and some of the overall brand experience and merge it into the other portions of what you offer.
So going back to the point around how to roll it out, and then the value, right? Like, is it worth the pain? Is it worth the effort, right? Certainly from a design and development perspective, there is the acceleration piece, right? Around, if I've already got some of the base experience is defined, I have the components, I know how to solve the common problems, I know how to solve the things that we do all the time, and have a set of building blocks to build from, then I can design faster. We can develop faster, because the development teams can build development code libraries and components that are the corollary to the design system in from a design perspective. And it lets the team focus on the harder bits of a piece of experience, or things that are unique to that problem space.
When we do develop that base design system, our building blocks, we'll have our UX patterns, our visuals, we'll have our typography patterns, we'll have our tone in how we write, but also we're going to have code, snippets of code that you can develop out and say, this is our design system, this is going to solve the majority of any issue or any feature that we want to do. So it really cuts back on double work, it cuts back on, and not just double working the code or design, but you got to think about going through the review system, going through committee reviews, going through legal, all this kind of stuff. You're not doubling all of that work. So it's a really good place to start.
Yeah, and the reviews and all of that non-actual code implementation and non-design time can be really large, right? Because if you think about what is behind, what is the entire rest of the engine, right? And the rest of the system, right? From everything from integration and all of the testing. How does QA get impacted by all kinds of different variations and duplications of code and systems and so forth? All of the support costs of now I've got to train my support teams to support different variations of the same kind of experience. And now my customers are going to call more often because they're going to get more confused, right? And all of those costs kind of add up. Yeah. And I remember back when I started my career, and we were focused mainly on doing desktop applications and actually, apps that you would install, and using the HIG from both Apple and Microsoft to guide how we built out and designed and implemented those applications. And so that evolution, it's not such a new thing, but the way that it gets used and built and the impact on web applications and the way that those are constructed, I think is definitely a new evolution in how these kind of standard guidelines help enable companies. Mm-hmm. Thanks for joining us to listen in about design systems. If you want to know more about design systems and all the work that we do at Filter in the experience design and multi-channel marketing space, check out our blog, come to our site, or better yet, contact us and get in touch, and we'll talk with you about the things that we can do for your organization.